Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast, and find us on YouTube at Ampire Media. That's AMPIRE. We're going to keep rocking there. And if you're watching there, we're hoping to include some highlights interwoven sometimes throughout these reports. Today, again, just me and you. It's August 3rd. So this is another training camp report because, again, the commanders practice today. On Thursday, they're going to have an abbreviated session. So I'm going to have a special guest for you to hear for Thursday's podcast/YouTube video. Let's get to the practice report. And it starts with Curtis Samuel back out on the practice field today. The receiver, of course, has missed the last 3 practices as part of the quote unquote plan. Now, where that plan is going, time will only tell. What I know is he missed the last 3 practices. Today he was out there. When you watch him on the side field, he was able to cut and was doing a lot of cutting. So he wasn't hindered over there or hampered over there. As Ron Rivera said, they're trying to ramp up his conditioning and kind of ramp up his ability to handle full loads over an extended time, whether they're just being cautious or if there's something more going on. Again, time will tell. And I do know that there's been tightness in there. You hear some stuff about the hamstring, back, a little bit about back. So just being cautious there. So let's see where this goes. But he was out there today and he looked pretty good. And one of the things that he gives you was a different element to that offense. And I think, as I said yesterday, I think they could survive without him again, because if Dotson comes through, if De'Ami Brown comes through, Logan Thomas, Cole Turner, Gibson, McKissick, there's still talent there to work with. But Curtis Samuel makes them better when he's on the field. And there are a couple things he did today. They use him a lot on screens. You screen to the left, make screen all the way to the right on the other side on consecutive plays. I like that kind of stuff, especially in a hurry up type of setting, because it makes the defense have to run. That's something Kyle Shanahan used to love to do. You go wide left on one play in a hurry up, you're going to go wide right on the other. Get those linemen having to run, and then you hit them, because now they're starting to get tired and stand up. So not that that's as much a philosophy. You can do that without Curtis Samuel, but if you don't get to him, he can break one in that open field setting. The other one I like, the other play and alignment that I like, they had Samuel wide left, Dotson is the number 2 receiver inside, and then Terry McLaurin inside as the number 3 receiver. So if you're a defense, you're not quite sure what they're going to do there, especially with Dotson and McLaurin next to each other. And then Samuel on the outside just ran a hitch on that play. But the confusing part comes inside with Dotson and McLaurin, the combination of those 3, but those 2 in particular. And you see Dotson coming off the ball, kind of stutter step, and he's going to run a crosser. And then you see McLaurin come off the ball, kind of stutter step. He's going to run a post. Somebody's going to be open in that play, because if you're safety, you may be driving down in that play. In fact, on this play, I think if they went back and looked at it, McLaurin was open a deep post. The ball did go underneath, but I think it's something to watch when they use that alignment, how those 2 do things, because Dotson could have run that same route that McLaurin did, and McLaurin could have done what Dotson did. So I think, and done it effectively. That's the key. So I think that gives you some more options there. But again, it helps having Samuel on the field, because that trio, Samuel could come underneath on that one as well. So that trio certainly gives defenses something more to think about. Today was also another day to watch the little one-on-one drills, because they were in full pads again today. So you get to watch. I'm going to look at my notes too for a minute. Get to watch some of those one-on-one drills in pass pro. And for example, you start to see who has stuff to work. What do they have to do? Like, J.D. McKissick's going to look a certain way in pass pro. In a game, he's going to look a certain way. We've seen it. Antonio Gibson's still developing there, but is becoming much better there. And you see that too. You see the feet, the footwork, the base. But the guy you want to pay attention to is Brian Robinson, because the more he can do this role, the more he'd be able to help them. Of course, right now you have Gibson ahead of him, you have JD. But if they need him, then he's going to have to do this. So in one of the pass pros, I saw Milo Eifler basically on the play, on the rep. Robinson comes up to meet him, and Eifler, he almost whiffs on Eifler, gets a little piece of him, but Eifler gets by him. Eifler is a guy I don't know that he's going to make the roster here. And so it was a good learning tool for Robinson. In fact, after the rep, I saw Ron Rivera and running backs coach Randy Jordan talking to Robinson for a minute or two, just going over what you needed to do better on that one. But I think those are revealing sessions. And I think you see that during all the one-on-one drills. And I think you see it in the inside run drill as well, or in the run drill when you basically have not throwing anything, it's just running the ball and run blocking. So in those drills, I was trying to pay attention to the young tight ends, because if you don't have John Bates and you don't have Logan Thomas, these guys are going to have to do something for you. And Bates remains out and Logan Thomas remains out. We don't know when he's coming back. I don't know when Bates is coming back either. I know he's been on the side and he's still, like, during practice, he'll oftentimes ride the bike, but he's not out there, and he's their top blocking tight end. So the young guys have to develop, especially Cole Turner. And I actually talked to Turner about this after practice, what he has to, when he was at Nevada, they run that air raid offense, and there's not a lot of blocking for a tight end. So the biggest thing he said he has to get used to really is the footwork. And he knows he's not going to overpower guys, but the saying he gives is, strong defeats weak, but smart can defeat strong. So the goal for him isn't so much, he's not going to overpower a guy, but just be smart about angles, be smart about your footwork. And that's how you can compensate for it. And I've actually seen some growth in him there over this time. In fact, when we talked about the footwork, I saw that in some of the drills where he is able to turn his guy out, seal him off backside. I saw another play was coming across the line, across the formation, and he blocks Jamin Davis on a run. And so just a nice job. Doesn't have to overpower guys, just has to do his job and get in the way in those situations. I think the other two are going to be even more works in progress, and that's Curtis Hodges and Imani Rogers. Samus Reyes is also getting work in that role. That's the thing he does best, is block. He's just not fluent as a receiver, and I think that's going to hurt him in the end, because I think they really like those other tight ends that they have, those other three tight ends, the rookies, as well as obviously Bates and Thomas. More on this in a minute. The one thing that you do notice, though, is with all those guys is a willingness to block. And I think you saw that, you definitely see that. There's a willingness to do it. It starts there, then it comes down to technique. And in some cases, it may come down to adding strength. And I think that'll be the case with Rodgers. I love watching Rodgers catch the ball because he's very fluid when he gets it. He had one route today, a crossing route, grabs it and is able to turn right away, right? Get upfield. He's athletic like that. But he's also not a huge guy. I think he's going to have to learn how to block. It's a completely new role for him in the NFL. I did see him get bowled over one time by Shaka Toney. So but again, just something he's going to have to learn to do. I like how Curtis Hodges competes with his blocking. So, I think that's going to be something to watch with there. And again, with Cole Turner is the big one, because he's going to be the guy that's going to play immediately. And I do think, like, Bates, my guess will be he'll be back at some point. So I think Turner's going to have to play immediately. And I do think he's improving in that blocking area. And he's such a good target. The one thing too, it's funny because I was talking to another coach about this after practice about Turner, and just like their point was, you sometimes see guys who are fast, but they don't run fast routes. He said one of the keys with Turner is he's fast. He also runs fast routes. So, and he uses and he's very athletic. So that helps, but it starts with, he runs his routes fast. So there you go. The other thing let's talk about is, again, one-on-one pass rush. And what you see, one guy that has jumped out a little bit as an undrafted guy is Jacob Panacea from Michigan State. The funny thing is he wears number 91, Ryan Kerrigan's old number, and you'll see Panacea flash once in a while. And one thing I think that's kind of, when you watch like some of the one-on-one pass rushes, you see him having a plan. You see him having a counter move. He took on one rush, he took the left tackle upfield and then cuts back inside. So you see him trying to set a guy up and having a plan out there. Now, you got him in a full team drill. I saw some of the old linemen be able to control him a little bit. So he's got a ways to go. I'm not saying he's making the roster. I just think he's a guy that has flashed a little bit for somebody in his position. And so maybe a practice squad guy, because they need some edge guys to develop. It's still not a deep area for this team at all. I talked about Sam Cosby yesterday. And so one thing, and it's funny because I did talk to him after practice, and I know Bram Weinstein talked to him too. So if you want to hear a full interview with him, you can hear it on ESPN 630. But one of the things I was curious with Cosby is, where does he feel more comfortable? Where is he a smarter player this year? And he said one of the things last year there, when he would be lining up at the line of scrimmage, there was like, if he's lining up against Montez Sweat, he's so worried about so many different things. All this stuff is in your head and it's swirling around, and it basically leads to mistakes from the start. So the minute you take a bad step, then Sweat is going to beat you. So this year, so I think I told you on Tuesday, he had some really good reps against Sweat. Well, it starts with that first step. So he said all he concentrates now on is that first step. Get that first step, win that first step, and then it goes from there. Today, he did get beat in the one-on-one versus Sweat with a bull rush. So I asked him, what do you learn off of a rush like that? Because that's what a lot of this process is learning. And his comment was, basically, you have to learn when to punch the guy. So when are you going to punch the guy with your hands? And he said, what point do you do that? That's where he erred on that play. So now that's a little subtle thing, because the difference is boom, boom, right? And so but that's what he learned there. So let's see where he goes. But he looks so much better. Doesn't win every time against Sweat, not going to, and he shouldn't, because if he does, that's not good for Sweat. But Cosby, it does look a lot more comfortable, and those are some of the reasons why. The other guy I want to talk about, and we go back to, there's two guys, and I love talking about J.D. Mckissick, because I enjoy watching him. And I told people who are Lions fans, like, I still don't get, there's two things I don't get. Why the Lions let him go 2 years ago, because when you watch his Lions tape, a lot of what he's showing now, it's there. And then the other thing I don't get is why this team risked losing him this offseason, because when you watch him, you realize what a loss he would have been. So, and I think I told you the other day, one of the things that you hear about J.D. Mckissick is his ability to cut full. He had a route today in the one-on-ones. This is a perfect example. So he's lined up against Jamin Davis. So he's coming out of the backfield, looks like he's going to cut outside, then he stems hard inside. But it's a big, hard stem, but it causes Davis to fly inside. Mckissick is so quick that he can cut right back outside and create an opening for himself. And that's what he did on this one route. Again, it's what you see in games and practices and one-on-one drills, and it's why that guy is so effective. And I think you can learn a lot about watching guys run routes. There's a difference when Mckissick runs a route versus a Brian Robinson, a Gibson. They're different style players. It's just like there's a difference watching Terry McLaurin run a route versus a Cam Sims. The attention to detail, the quickness in and out of a break is very different between a McLaurin and a Cam Sims and McKissick and everybody else. And I'll probably talk more about Sims in later ones, but there is a difference there. And it's why some guys play more than others. It's that attention to detail that McKissick has, plus the quick twitch aspect. And so you saw it again in these one-on-one pass runs and then one-on-one drills where the back's coming out of the backfield. The other thing in there too, Cole Holcomb is having a good camp. And I'll say that. And of the linebackers, he's definitely the one standing out, always involved in the play. His hands getting his hand on balls. And in coverage, he's been pretty good. And one of the things that where you notice about him too is, again, I bring up what Ron Rivera said the other day about guys chirping at each other, but then trying to help one another after a rep. Every time I watched Cole Holcomb today, after every rep, he went up to the guy on offense that he went against, whether to slap hands with them, but also to talk about what it is that he saw on the route or what the guy did. Just talk about the play. That's how you learn. But you do notice Holcomb doing that an awful lot. And again, I think he has stood out definitely as well. Again, after one rep, it was with Antonio Gibson. A good job by Holcomb on the play. And it matters. It definitely matters. I'll go back to Brian Robinson, because again, I talk about McKissick, but again, he's a different back than Robinson. So I'm not comparing the two because they're different styles. But Khalid Hudson did a nice job on Robinson when there was an off the ball coverage. So Robinson out of the backfield and tries to get him inside, doesn't get him. Hudson is right there, and it was a nice job by Hudson. Hudson has been kind of up and down with his camp. at times, sometimes looks pretty good. Sometimes he is a backup, and he's a special teams guy. But I do think at some point they're going to have to sign another linebacker. In fact, one of their backups in camp, Drew White, is lost with a torn ACL. I think the names to watch still at some point in this camp would be AJ Klein and John Bostic, just because they have familiarity with this defense. The coaches know both players. That always matters. Whether or not one of those guys here, don't know, but they're still among the two to watch at some point, I do believe. Last thing I'll say is, again, with the pads on, you've seen more of the offense maybe having some success. And I think they had yesterday, and today was kind of a mixed bag of things, but you do see some guys now starting to create more separation. And one of the things that one coach, I think it was Ron Rivera at the podium, was saying that when you have the pads on for a lineman, offensive lineman, when you don't have the pads on, you're just absorbing blocks. Now, when you have the pads on, you can attack more without fear of getting your other guy hurt. So I think whether or not that's made a difference, that's what they say. But I do know the offense has looked better the last 2 days. Today, again, probably a mixed bag back and forth. Well, there you go. That's the Washington Commanders practice report for Wednesday, August 3rd. I will be back with an interview with a special guest on Thursday. Talk to you next time. Hey everybody, it's John Keim. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, and I'll continue to bring you guests who provide excellent insight into the Washington Commanders. And while you're here, check out the other terrific content on the Empire Media Network, including Inside the Cap with Joel Corey and All's Caps with Steve Wino and former Washington Capital Carl Alsner. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.